The Lives of the Saints by Father Albin Butler, October 5th, Blessed Raymond of Capua. The Del Vigne family was one of the noblest in Capua. Pedro della Vigne had been chancellor of Emperor Federico II. His performance in that position was praised by Dante in the Inferno of his Divine Comedy. Among his descendants was Raymond of Capua, who was born in 1330. As a student at the University of Bologna, he entered the Order of St. Dominic. Despite his poor health, Raymond had a brilliant career. At the age of 37, he was appointed prior of the Minerva in Rome. Later, he was lector at Santa Maria Novella in Florence. In Siena, where he was sent in 1374, he met St. Catherine. During Mass on the feast of St. John the Baptist, the saint heard a voice saying to her, "This is my beloved servant, and to him I am going to entrust you." Father Raymond had already been chaplain to the preachers of Montepulciano, so that he had no lack of experience in the direction of religious, but until then he knew nothing about that young woman. Catherine, who was 27 years old, was 16 years younger than Blessed Raymond. He was a prudent and well-considered man who did not let himself be carried away by impulses, nor was he frightened by novelties. Although at first he did not understand the mission to which God had destined him, he immediately recognized Catherine's goodness. One of the first things he did when he took her under his direction was to allow her to receive communion as often as she wished. During the last 6 years of St. Catherine's life, which were the most important, the Blessed was her spiritual director and her right arm, which should be enough for history not to forget her name. The first work they undertook together was the care of the victims of the plague that had decimated the city. Father Raymond contracted the disease and was at death's door. St. Catherine prayed for him for an hour and a half, and the next morning he was perfectly healthy. From then on, he was convinced of Catherine's gift of miracles and of her divine mission. When the epidemic subsided, Father Raymond collaborated with St. Catherine in the preaching of the crusade in Pisa and other cities, and was personally responsible for delivering the famous letter of the saint to the fierce filibuster of Essex, John Hawkwood. The preaching of the crusade was interrupted by the rebellion of Florence and the Tuscan League against the Pope of Avignon. Then, Father Raymond and Catherine devoted their efforts to restore peace in Italy and to get Gregory IX to return to Rome. In 1378, this pontiff died, and Urban VI succeeded him, but the opposition party elected Clement VII, and thus began the Schism of the West. St. Catherine and Blessed Raymond had no doubt as to who was the legitimate pope. Urban VI sent Raymond of Capua to France to preach against Clement VI, and to win King Charles V to his cause. Catherine took leave in Rome of the faithful Dominican, who had helped her so much in her undertakings for the glory of God, and who had so often spent the whole day confessing the sinners she had converted to penance. "We shall never speak to each other again," Catherine exclaimed, as she took her leave and fell to her knees, bathed in tears. Clement's soldiers arrested Blessed Raymond at the frontier, happily managed to escape with his life and returned to Genoa, where he received a letter from St. Catherine, who was very disappointed by his failure. Pope Urban wrote him to try to reach France through Spain, but he did not succeed. St. Catherine wrote him another letter, in which she reproached him harshly for what she considered to be cowardice. In spite of everything, Raymond of Capua remained in Genoa, preaching against Clement and studying to obtain the degree of licentiate in theology. Being in Pisa on April 28, 1380, he heard a voice that had no sound and whose words reached his intelligence without passing through his ears. The voice commanded him, "Tell him not to be discouraged. I will be with him in all dangers, and if he fails, I will help him again." A few days later, the Blessed learned of Catherine's death and learned that she had said exactly the same words about him to those around her on her deathbed. Father Raymond took charge of the saint's family, which consisted of a small number of clerics and lay people who had helped and supported her in all her undertakings and continued to work ardently to put an end to the schism. In addition, during the next 19 years, she distinguished herself in another kind of activity. Around the time of St. Catherine's death, he was elected Master General of the Dominicans, who were supporters of Pope Urban. The Blessed devoted himself seriously to restore the fervor, which had declined a lot because of the schism, the Black Death, and the general weakness. In particular, he strived to rejuvenate the monastic aspect of the order, and for this purpose he established a number of convents of strict observance in various provinces, so that their fervor would influence the whole. The reform was not completely successful, and Raymond of Capua has been reproached for the measures he took, because they tended to modify and diminish the intellectual importance of the Dominicans. But it must be said that such measures produced a number of men of God, and it is not without reason that his 23rd Master General has been called the second founder of the order. Another part of the Blessed's plan was to spread the Third Order throughout the world. Thomas Caffarini, at whose urging we owe the completion of Raymond of Capua's biography of St. Catherine. Moreover, in his younger years, when he had less work to do, he had written a life of St. Agnes of Montepulciano. Blessed Raymond of Capua died in Nuremberg on October 5, 1399, while he was working for the reform of the Dominicans in Germany. He was beatified in 1899.